Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sup Talk Radio. If you're looking for scores to last night's NHL or how to make moist banana bread, you're in the wrong spot. Today, we're talking competitive bodybuilding, and we've got 4 people on the call here, 2 competitors now and 2 former competitors. I'm excited. We're going to rip apart the Mr. O lineup. We'll take us into Classic, and let's have some fun, make some predictions, and we'll kind of revisit this on Sunday to see who was close, who was right, who was wrong. But anyway, let me once again welcome Will Whitlock of Leviathan Nutrition, current competitor, bodybuilding competitor. We have Josh from The One Nutrition, physique competitor. We've got James from Impel Nutrition, former physique competitor. Physique, right? Was it physique?
Classic physique.
Classic physique. And you've got me, the dinosaur of the bunch, with competitive bodybuilding many years ago. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Good to be here.
So I wanted to start off just a little bit to give all the listeners an idea of what everybody's ideal physique is. So maybe, Will, when you were growing up or even now, what type of physique or what bodybuilder kind of really appealed to you?
For my goal physique?
Well, when you're following bodybuilding, not you, but were you a Jay Cutler guy? Were you Dexter Jackson? Were you more the smaller physique guys?
Well, as far as who I wanted to win, I always wanted the freak factor type of thing to win. So I started following bodybuilding when Ronnie was on his way out back in 2005, 2006. He was the one I was rooting for. But as far as would I want to look like that? I think that's too much for me personally. I'd kind of prefer a mix between that and being, like a physique competitor, that sort of thing. I can't even think of guys back then that that had that type of physique, but usually they're not placing top 10 in the Olympia or something. Well, I guess if I had the structure or something like that, something like Brandon Ray or Sean Roden, even Victor Martinez back in 2006, I think those are some great physiques that combine both size and still, have that small waist, have those muscle bellies that really pop, and just an overall pleasing structure.
Gotcha. Josh, what about you? When you were, I guess, following bodybuilding now, I mean, who did you like? What kind of physique were you trying to attain?
Well, who did I like? I was a big Phil Heath guy because that was really what turned me on to bodybuilding scene in general, but by no means am I down for using the amount of gear required to actually get to that sort of physique. So for me, it would really be, a lot of the classic guys that are out there now. I'm a big believer in Wesley Vissers. I really like his physique. It's really, really unique for the classic scene. So something like that, or like a downsized version of Steve that would have been the ideal, I think, for me.
Okay. James, what about you, my friend?
All right, I'm going to go old school here, maybe put a little age on it. But, for me growing up, I just wanted to look like a He-Man action figure. I mean, that was all the toys you played with, they all had big arms, big chests. So, that kind of like Conan the Barbarian, Franco Columbo, like the original Hulk.
Yep.
Lou Ferrigno. I mean, that was kind of like where I was going, and as far as competitive wise, I think C-Bum has the best physique out there. Maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a taller guy, not a bunch of people over 6 foot doing it. So I really like his look, but any of the bodybuilders from the 90s, Dorian, Ronnie, even Labrada, Sean Ray.
Yep.
You could go on and on. A lot of great physiques.
Talking about the classics here, because I'm surprised you went back to the 90s, because that's when I grew up. So like me, I love Milo Sarchev.
You grew up in the 90s? Hold on.
But I understood bodybuilding. All right. Get the insults now here. I know the old man of the bunch. Go ahead. But no, I love the classic physiques even back then. Like Milo Sarchev, I know he'd never be Mr. Olympia, but I loved his lines. I loved his physique. Again, the Lee Labradas, Deshaun Rays. And then, I spoke with one of you folks that when Sean Roden won a couple of years ago, I was like, he's going to bring bodybuilding back. He's going to bring classic lines.
Yeah.
fucked it up, and now I don't know where he is.
That's one thing I kind of wanted to bring up. I think like if he came back now, it'd be a perfect time for him because all the guys that were beating him previously, like Phil Heath, Kai Green, now that they're gone, I think now would be a perfect time for him to come in. I don't think he's retired. I really don't know what he's doing. But I've trained down at Dragon's Lair a couple times within the past few months, and I'll still see him there training, and he's still very big. So I really don't think he's retired, but I'm not sure what he's planning to do competitive wise.
I don't know if he's overcome his legal problems yet. I don't know if that's still pending.
Yeah, I'm wondering that too. I mean, he's out and about still, and that was like 2 years ago. So
maybe?
Who knows? But I mean, it seems like there is something stopping him from competing, so that could be it.
Yeah, and I know if and when if he comes back, he's already like 41 or 42, I think. I know he's very early 40s. I don't know what kind of damage he can do with that at that age. But then again, age is just a number. When you look at people like Dexter Jackson, who was competing and still coming in top 10 in his late 40s. Yeah,
it really depends on the person. I mean, Ronnie was, in his early 40s. That's when he started dominating. But some guys, once they get into that age range, especially their legs, it seems like their legs really start to lose size first. So, and he's always covered up, so I really don't know how he looks, but it would be interesting.
You should ask him one day. Be the fanboy and ask him.
I can't believe that. Like I have a couple of friends who train there and stuff, and none of them have asked him. Like, I'm sure people probably ask him that all the time, but I haven't. Like, no one that I know has asked him or has the answers for that, which is interesting.
Yeah. So let's jump into the fun here, guys. Again, I'm going to bring in some slides here. We'll kind of analyze, pros, cons, and if you want to give, we'll go slide by slide. And if you want to give your prediction on where you think they'll come, and I'll kind of keep a mental note here or a written note. And again, we can all rib each other on Sunday to see who the closest was. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can work the magic here. So I'm going to try to bring my slideshow here, and we'll kind of see where this goes.
And I'll be down there this weekend, so I can text you guys how wrong you were.
Oh, nice.
All right, guys. So hopefully you're seeing my slideshow here. Let's see if I can get it in full view. Can you guys see?
Yes, I can see.
Looks real professional.
Well, thank you. That's my elementary. So let's first talk Hattie Chopin. I mean, Will, if you want to start us off, maybe pros, cons, where you think he might wind up.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he's going to be up there. Personally, I have Ramy winning. I as long as he comes in good condition, I don't see anyone beating him. But Hadi would definitely be someone I have at least second. He's always shredded. He has a great amount of size. His waist is still good. He's not, one of these guys with a huge gut or anything like that. So he is definitely, I would have it between Ramy and him, really, as long as I'm not sure if he's in the States, as long as he doesn't have any issues like, getting in to compete, because I think he did 1 year and he was unable to compete or something like that. But yeah, he's definitely up there for me.
Yeah, I think he's from Iran, and there 1 year there was some problems with his visa trying to come from over there.
Yeah, I remember that. Hopefully he's got that figured out.
Funny.
I want to say he's part of the Saudi bunch. Like, we hear all the top bodybuilders going to Saudi and training, like Ramy, and I think he might be part of that bunch. Brandon Curry. But Josh, what are you thinking, buddy?
So yeah, first off, he is actually in the States. He got in the States last week, so he's gonna have no issues with his conditioning there. And his conditioning, at least based off his 2019 showing before COVID and everything, that was his strong suit by all means. I mean, that guy literally was like an 8K display. It was nasty. I have him personally coming in second, unless Ramy comes in a little bit off. If Ramy comes in off, it's gonna be a battle between both of them, whether they're looking for that real, freak of nature look, or they want someone that's actually, coming in on fleek, like how he tends to come in. So yeah, that's really where I have him.
James, what do you think?
All right, I'm gonna play a different route here. I say that he doesn't do better than third.
Really? Okay.
He's always in shape. He's got good quads. He's got a nice back. He's a little blocky in the middle. and he's a shorter guy, so I think he kind of gets lost with Curry and Ramy standing next to him because they both have size and height on him. So he kind of like falls down here, and you're like, okay, well, he's big, but it makes him seem even blockier, especially how tight Curry's waist is usually. I mean, he's got just those crazy lats and just that real big X frame. So I think he does well, but I don't think he comes past third unless somebody's off.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think I'm going to go third myself. I mean, to be honest, who I'd love to see him go against in a year or two is Flex Lewis. I think they're almost the same size, and I think that would be just a really good matchup to see.
Yeah, definitely. I think they both came from the 212 class too, right? Hadi moved up a couple of years ago, I think, to the Open.
Yes, no, you're right. And there's rumors going around that Flex is going to do the Open next year, so we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
So let's go to current Mr. Olympia himself, Big Ramy. And it sounds like everybody's saying first, but James, go start us off on that aspect.
Maybe I'm a hater here, but I don't like his look at all. His legs, they're freaky, yeah, but I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily good muscle and all that. He'll probably come in shape this year, but there's a big question on what does that mean to him, because he's looking really, kind of Skeletor diet face. But as far as like nailing the conditioning in his legs and his belly, it's been 4 or 5 years and he's done it one time. So maybe he can repeat, but I think if Curry's brought up his legs at all, then he's second.
So you think he's a one-trick pony for Mr. Olympia?
He may come back again at another point, maybe, because he's still somewhat young. But he's got to nail the conditioning, and with his size, he just hasn't been able to do it consistently.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if he's found the magic formula. He's back with Dennis James again, I think, because I think they broke for a little while, and Dennis James always has good results. And again, I think he's part of the Saudi crew as well. So I guess we'll have to see. Josh, what are you thinking, my friend?
If he comes in like he did last year, I don't see anyone being able to hold a candle to him. I do agree with James on the whole physique thing. It's definitely not the most aesthetically pleasing. I mean, to me, his legs remind me of giant drumsticks. But that's really where it seems Open is going these days, is that real freak of nature look, and we're kind of going away from anything that's aesthetically pleasing. That's why we have classic. But if he doesn't come in looking exactly as he did last year or better than he did last year, I don't really see any of the judges rewarding him with that first place, just because, well, there's better out there. There's Hadi, there's Brandon, there could be someone else that's not being mentioned in that top three kind of fight that might be able to take that from him if he comes in looking watery like he tends to, because he always has the death face right about now for the past 4 or 5 years that I've been following him on social media. He's always got that jaundiced look, but then you see him on stage and it's like, damn, did you just chug like 10 gallons of water, bro? And so that's really what we're all going to be holding our breath and waiting for on Saturday.
So what do you throw down a prediction, Josh? I don't know if I heard a prediction or not.
If he comes in like he did in 2020, no one's touching him. He's first place all day. But if he comes in off, he's going to be second, third, fourth, fifth, could be 10th. Really depends.
If you had to flip a coin, which one do you think he does, Josh?
Josh, lay a prediction. Come on.
First. I'm hoping first.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Whitlock.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say pretty much similar things that they've said. It really depends if he's on or not. And it also, I think really the only guy who has the most potential to beat him is going to be Curry. It depends if Curry comes in peeled. He was a little off last year, and especially with Curry, like James said, he still needs to bring his quads up. I've seen him compete at the Olympia since like 2007. That's always been an issue for him. His quads just don't have that size compared to the other guys. But like his X frame and everything looks fantastic if he's on. So if he does come in with even a little bit more size on the quads and he comes in good shape, I think he can beat Ramy. But I don't know. It's going to be close. It can really be between Ramy and Brandon. Personally, I think that Ramy will repeat. I think that I'm kind of hoping that he, is able to come in shape again. I've seen, so Dennis James is doing his training, and then Chad Nichols, I think, is doing his diet. I've seen him, like those training videos that Dennis has been releasing of him, in the gym, and he looks, to me, he just looks smaller than, I've seen him before, because he you see him normally, he just looks enormous. So I'm hoping that that's an indicator that he's actually in pretty good shape, because like Josh said, you can't really tell for a lot of people. A lot of people get that Skeletor type of face, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of them is peeled. So it'll be interesting to see. I do think that he'll probably nail his conditioning, hopefully, but I mean, it's looking at his past competitive record. He's only come in really good shape once, so let's see. Hopefully he's learned how to repeat that. And I think, as a quick aside, because Hassan Mustafa is also doing the Olympia. I think he's currently kind of got the same problem that Ramy used to have whenever he first started competing at the Olympia. He would always just come in really big, but not conditioned enough. So I think Hassan is another guy who really needs to focus on getting shredded, because he has that size to be competitive at a pretty high level. So if he can learn how to do that, he might be able to jump up the ranks like Ramy did.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point that everybody brought up, that, again, in the 90s, you knew people were coming in strong by that Skeletor look, by that facial look. And now when you look at, like, all the competitors nowadays, it might be one or two. Like, Dexter Jackson is the only one I think that really gets that peeled, like, skin, like, look, where everybody else, I don't know if it's GH, I don't know what it is, but they're peeled at single percentage, but their face still looks like they're in the, double digits almost.
Yeah, I couldn't really say for sure either. I mean, I think today's guys are using pretty big amounts of GH, and that probably attributes to a lot of the water retention issues. But it also makes them look bigger. So it's really a science. I mean, with all the things that these guys are running, with how much food they have to take in, especially to look full on stage. And with diuretic use and all that, there's a lot of things that they need to consider to bring them not just in great condition, but to also bring them in nice and full. So that's, it's tricky. And, that's why you see even the best guys in the world, can miss their mark too.
Yep. So I'm gonna go with you, Will, and I'm gonna say he's gonna repeat. But I don't think he's going to be a multi-time. I think this might be his second year for him, but I don't see him winning 3, 4, 5 O's like somebody else. But I think he's going to repeat. But I guess, again, we'll see what happens here in a couple of days. So the next guy we have on deck, Will Bonac. And I know, James, I think you like him. I think you and I have talked about it. You're a fan of his, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think, Bonac, he's the next guy after Hottie. And I mean, really, you put them side by side, he has a little bit less freak factor, but he has a much more aesthetically pleasing build for having the size that he has on his frame. He's another smaller guy. But, I mean, you can see in 19 that he was second. So he has the ability to kind of sneak in and really do some damage to some of these guys if they're not on.
So what are you thinking? You want to put a placement?
Yeah, I mean, I say he's fourth. And to me, he's the main guy that's going to keep Nick Walker out of the top 4, top 5.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Will?
I basically have him fourth also. He's got a great physique. Like, you look at his physique, and I can't really say anything that's wrong with him, except the other guys are bigger, and he doesn't have that freak factor. Nothing really sticks out about him. So maybe that's the issue that keeps him from being in that potentially winning. But he's pretty consistent, so he always comes in looking pretty good. So yeah, I would say fourth, but I don't really see him pushing, into that second or third range unless something drastic happens, like, someone else is off.
Yeah, see, I like his size. I think at this point, I don't know if in his shape, if it's adding size, it might just be peeling a little bit more, just getting a little bit more harder. But again, yeah, second place is nothing to sneeze at. I'm gonna buck the system here, and I'm gonna say he's gonna come in third this year. I think he's gonna come right in the middle between 19 and 20. And I'm gonna go third myself. But Josh, what are you thinking?
I have him in fifth.
Okay.
I have him in fifth. I mean, I feel real confident that he's going to come in. He's going to come in looking nice. I just don't think he's going to bring the wow factor that the person I have in fourth brings to the stage.
Okay. All right. So next one, Mr. Brandon Curry, 2019 Mr. O, and third place last year. Will, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I mean, whenever we were assessing Ramy, kind of same thing here. He has the potential to be a very dominant Mr. Olympia. I think if he brought the legs up and he consistently nailed his condition. I'm not sure how old he is now, but I know he's getting up there in age. He's been competing as a pro since like 2007 or 2008.
Yeah, right.
But he has a great physique, great frame and everything. It's just a matter of him coming in condition. 2019 he was clearly the winner. 2020, I think Ramy was the best bodybuilder on that day, and his free factor and condition just beat him out on a more genetically pleasing guy like Brandon. So it's hard to say. I haven't seen any real progress pictures from him, but he definitely has potential to come in and win. Win again.
So you put him in second, Will? I don't know if I missed your guess.
Yeah, I'll put him in second. I have Ramy winning, Brandon in second, assuming he comes in with decent condition, and then Hadi probably in third.
Okay. All right. Josh, what are you thinking?
So I have Brandon in third, assuming he comes in looking like he did, last year, the year before. Yeah, he's got a really great physique. He's got a great X factor going on there. He's got some really decent posing too for being a men's open guy, at least from my perspective. But his legs, that's really what's going to hold him back from being someone that can come back to the Mr. O, 2 years down the road and eventually hold the title for a few years. He's just got to make his legs up.
Yeah, see, he's one of the ones that actually surprised me when he won the Mr. O, because I've always seen him as a top 10. And then when he went to Saudi, then I knew something was going to go up, because it seems like, again, I keep referencing it throughout the show here, but it seems like everybody that goes to Saudi, I don't know if it's the training, I don't know if it's the nutrition and the extra supplements, but people go to Saudi, they come back, and all of a sudden it's like a whole new version of them. But I'm gonna put him in third actually myself. But James, what are you thinking?
So yeah, I mean, you're talking about the oxygen gym over there in Saudi, and I think it's
the Camel Crew. I think is what they officially refer to it as.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what that is, especially with Curry, he opened up in one of the interviews, was kind of like it takes all the extra stuff out of it. He just goes over there. He lives, breathes, sleeps, eats, trains bodybuilding the whole time. And so, if you know anything about him, he's got like 4 kids, coaches football. I mean, so he's like playing the dad and all that the couple years before. And so you ship him across the world, always getting his top tier food, top tier supplements that are, all legal over there and easy to get, no worries. And then he just trains his ass off and sleeps his ass off. And I think that's where you saw that extra potential come from. For me, I have him first. I mean,
really? Okay.
His back and you can see there that front bicep. I mean, his arms are huge. His back is huge. He's got a small waist. I think they penalized him with third last year to really drive home the fact that, A, you got to come in shape and you need to bring your legs up. I think really this is the look that they probably want to go for. And the fact that Ramy actually hit his conditioning one time too, that they definitely gave it to him to try to reward that. But like what Will was saying, some of these training videos, Ramy's looking kind of small. And so I wonder if him bringing the condition takes some of the freak factor down when you stand, back to back with Curry.
Yeah, I know, because I've seen some of the videos with Ramy, and I don't know if it's just he's depleted and needs to carb up, or if he is truly just coming in a little bit tighter. So I guess we'll have to see. But with the view we have here, I can't really bring in comments, but I have it on my phone here. So James, you know Alan that was on a previous call from us, Heroic Muscle.
Yeah.
So he's commenting here. Brandon comes in small. If Brandon comes in fuller, he tends to have a softer physique, especially from the hamstring and glutes. But then he says sometimes Brandon comes in too lean, his legs flatten out. And then he says the highest quality pharmaceuticals is known to come out there, and I'm assuming he means Saudi. Look at the world's champion, almost everyone in shape versus America, USA, and the Nationals. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid point. There's a lot of guys coming out of Egypt, the Middle East, that, like that Mustafa guy that Will was talking about. I mean, there's just some freaks that just pop up out of nowhere over there, and they're huge and they're in shape. So there may be something to it.
Yep. And the next one's a new up-and-coming stud here, Hunter Labrada, which is, I mean, I like his physique, but if you ever see him standing next to his dad looks like a munchkin compared to him.
Yeah, I actually saw him this past weekend at the Daytona Classic show. He was there, just special guest.
Interesting. So do you guys see a top 5 for him, or I guess more of a James? What do you think he's going to place? Is he going to be maybe the surprising dark horse this year, coming in a top 5?
That's where I have him. I have him right there after Bonac, so 5th place.
Okay.
Yeah, same with me. I have him coming in 5th after Bonac. He seems to be improving. I mean, he's still pretty young, I believe. So I think he definitely has a lot of potential. Last year he looked great, and I think he'll definitely do better than like Nick Walker at this Olympia. But I am interested to see them side by side together and see how they compare, because I do think Hunter. I think Hunter will compete with him size-wise, and he has a much better shape and structure. So I do have Hunter coming in 5th.
And Hunter has a lot better posing, especially with a more traditional build and all that. I mean, his posing is incredible. And so when I was talking to him and hanging out over there, he's up significantly in weight from the Chicago Pro, and in a much tighter condition. So I think we're going to see him really hold out that 5th place.
I was just going to actually ask you that. I haven't seen him pose yet, because I'm sure his dad is in his ear, because I know people say his dad back in the day is one of the top 5 best posers ever. So I'm sure his dad is influencing him from that standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, they do some videos online of them doing some stuff together, and his dad is side by side with him. That's kind of the cool thing with them right now is, everywhere they go, they're just kind of like right there, and he's got his dad, coaching him along the way of, all the right things to do.
Josh, what are you thinking, Josh?
So I have him in 6th. Yeah, there's not really much to say about him. He's got a really great physique. It's really a lot more on the traditional side, and like I think James, you were saying, his posing is surprisingly really good.
So I'm gonna go top 5. I think he's gonna surprise us, and I like his physique as long as he doesn't try to build more mass and just kind of refine with class like his dad did. Like his dad, I don't remember, but I think if you look at when his dad competed, when he started to when he finished, he was just like Sean Ray. Like from over the 10 years, they probably put on 10 pounds on their physique, even though it was a lot smaller. But I think if he stays lean and doesn't try to play the mass game, I think he might have some good longevity or some good placements down the road.
Yeah,
So
I kind of agree. He's also one of the very few guys I see who's still consistently posting progress pictures. So I think he's feeling pretty confident, and I mean, he looks good. But yeah, like you said, I think as far as size goes, he shouldn't really focus on putting that much more on. Just kind of continue to refine his physique, and I can see him in the future, being something like a Dexter Jackson.
yeah,
Just being very consistent and being, right up there, in like the top three repeatedly. I think that's something that's definitely doable for him.
yep. Next one here, a little bit higher placement, guys, but Ian Valieri, I guess. I like his physique. He's not a mass monster, and maybe that's where he loses a little bit, is he's not as big. But I think he's going to come in seventh again. I think he's going to repeat what he did last year. Maybe look a little bit better, but I think everybody else ahead of him is going to continue to get better. So I have him in seventh myself. But Josh, what do you think this round?
Yeah, seventh for sure.
James, what about you?
Okay. I really like Ian. I like his physique. But with some of the other guys that are here, I mean, we haven't really talked about it, but you got Nick Walker, you got Hollingshead from the UK, you got Regan Grimes coming from Canada. Man, I mean, ninth.
Wow. Okay. Will, have you?
Yeah,
Neck here, but
it's hard to say. I think I personally would have Nick Walker around sixth, and seeing the Arnold, Nick was able to beat Ian a little bit, so I think seventh for Ian would make sense. But like James is saying, we also have those other two guys coming in, which I'm interested to see how they do. I think all four of those guys can really kind of switch places. I think it'll be pretty close between them. But Ian has a great physique. He's no doubt that he's going to come in peeled. I think he just needs to, continue to put on size over the years, over the next few years, and I think he can really. I think he has a lot of potential.
And Alan, I love you, brother. I didn't think to invite you, and I'm sorry because he's chiming in here left and right, and I can tell he's spitting fire here. He says Ian comes in softer, trying to be bigger. In my opinion, 10th place. So,
yeah, I'm looking here. It does look like Alan's blowing up the comments. Oh man. Yeah, you're right. I mean, they could do a lot to fill some of those guys out with some of those techniques, but that's how they spill over and they look like trash.
Yeah, I think he does. I'm looking at the comments now. I think he does have a point, especially for Nick more so. So I think Nick at the Arnold was, very good. I would be very surprised if he's able to repeat that for the Olympia. So, Nick could be off at the Olympia. Ian, I'm not sure. He was pretty peeled. I think just he had an issue with keeping his quads flexed a lot of times. You see in like his front double bicep at the Arnold. He had very little leg separation, but whenever he hits his most muscular like this, the leg separation was there. So I don't know if he was just like, was posing. He needed to be reminded to flex his quads or something. But I don't know. I think he can potentially do better condition-wise for the Olympia. I don't think he was quite as peaked as Nick was for that show, for the Arnold.
so what do you think Nick's going to come in at?
I'd say sixth or seventh. But I think it's really going to be between all four of those guys. Between depending on how Nick is able to peak for the show. I'm going to assume he comes in as good as he comes in for the Arnold. Then I would place him at sixth.
Gotcha. Josh, what are you thinking?
I had Nick actually in fourth. I've been
Really?
following at least for all of this. Yeah, I've been following at least all of this year, 2021. And every single show he seems to get better and better and better and better and better. I know it's not necessarily, in he doesn't have the greatest chance in the world per se of say getting that same exact condition he had literally 2 weeks ago, at the Arnold when the Saturday comes. But assuming that he does, or does even a little bit better, God willing. Yeah, I definitely have him really being up there, standing, possibly next to like someone like a Hottie. I think that would be interesting to see those more blocky physiques, standing side by side to battle it out on that first call out.
I mean, Nick's kind of a blocky physique.
Yeah.
He's got a fat waist per se, like width wise. He gets the conditioning and the detail in the front of his abs you can see there, but when he's in the other poses, you definitely see that he doesn't have that real taper like a lot of the guys do.
I haven't looked. How's his double bicep? I know it has a lot to waist ratio. Is it kind of low because of that blockiness?
Not really. I mean, because he has really crisp lines, or he definitely had in the last couple shows that he had. So it helps kind of hide, especially how, I wouldn't say bubbly his abs are, because he doesn't have a gut in the general sense, but they're very 3D. And so that helps the optical illusion in some of these poses for, making him look less blocky than he really is. But I think you put him next to Hunter, who has, a giant shoulder to waist ratio. And he looks way too blocky.
So where do you put?
Just considering, Hunter versus Nick. Hunter's had since August to diet specifically for this show, rebound out of the Chicago Pro, and Nick's trying to do it after 2 weeks. So I think for sure Hunter's going to beat him hands down. So Nick could be 6th. I mean, I think he would have to be far off to fall behind the next group of guys, unless they just really make him look super small because he is so short.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you a little bit, because that's the spot I have him in as well as 6th place. So yeah, I know this, and there was some, like you said, there's some interesting lineups you want to see. Again, the Knicks and the Hunters and some of the other people. But here's one that I don't know if he's competing or not, but he's on the list. Akeem Williams, and this might not be the best picture of him that I used. But 220, 6th place isn't anything to sneeze at. So no, James, I don't know if you know Akeem or any comments.
Yeah, Akeem's awesome. He's always like the bridesmaid. He can never just dial it in. And I mean, he got smoked at the Arnold. I think he was like 6th or something like that. I mean, he was pretty far behind. And everybody up until that was kind of having him as the winner just about. I think a lot of it goes, you see how high his lats are here, the lat insertion. It just makes him look small compared to certain people when he stands next to him. I think with this lineup, he'll be lucky to get top 10. I think with Nathan Diasha probably not doing this now, he might have a chance of being 10th.
Okay. Josh, have you looked at Akeem, or any thoughts?
Yeah. So based off of all of the post Arnold Classic shit that he's been posting, he's able to get it. The conditioning and everything. It's just his timing. He really needs to work on that shit. Really, 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 really needs to work on that, because he could look like a freak in nature and stand next to some of the biggest guys, in open. But that's like the once in a blue moon thing that would occur. So I mean, I don't really see him coming in anywhere other than at best, like that 10th place spot, because his track record is far from something to talk about.
Yeah, Will, what about yourself?
Yeah, kind of like what they both said. He's very hit or miss. I think he'd probably be somewhere between 8th to 10th, if not, like 11th. If he just competed at the Arnold, I think he got second call outs. So I don't really think he can pull it together in 2 weeks' time to do much better than that.
Yeah, and I don't know if I want to put a number, but I think between 9th and 10th, maybe tipping the 10th. And this is what I kind of brought up earlier. I mean, his physique is good, and he's maybe not 100%, but he's got lines. And if you look at his face, you'd never think that he was lean. Again, kind of that bloat face that we talked a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna say one more here, and then we'll come off and chat four of us here because I'm sure I missed a couple. But really, Winkler. I mean, he's always another dark horse. You know, I've seen him. He's getting a little bit better. You know, I think his lats here are ridiculous. Like, obviously, look like two balloons under there. But with the lineup, I think as Rolly gets older, I think he's going to be that high, maybe 10 or 11. But I'm going to stop, and I'll defer to you, James.
I think he was also at the Arnold and got second call-outs. But, I mean, he's got crazy arms. I mean, the guy's just – he seems to improve mass-wise but not conditioning-wise every year.
Yeah.
And I think he really missed his time to compete in the top placings, whether that's a political thing or it's a genetic thing. But, you know, he has the freak shape that if he comes in crazy, I mean, he could place well, but I doubt it.
So you think he'll be out of the top 10?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Josh, what about you?
Honestly, I didn't even consider him as being someone competing in the Olympia this year just because of how his whole classic event went. I mean, yeah, he's in the space now, but at least from any posts that he's had, well, man needs like all the diuretics in the world to the point that his heart's just going to stop. I would say he's outside of the top 10 if he actually competes at all. Just because at least when he did compete this year, he looked like shit. Compared to what we were all expecting him to come in looking like, we were expecting him to come in and smoke the show that he did. I don't remember the exact name of the show, but it was literally like just 2 or 3. So yeah, if he competes, he's outside of that top 10. And honestly, I see him as being a guy that's probably going to retire within the next year or so. And look to do other things. And that's strictly speaking from the fact that his track record seems to be constantly going backwards, at least compared to his 2019, I think it was, when he won the People's Choice in the Olympia.
Yeah, I think he just misses the consistency. But Will, why don't you sum it up for Rolly?
Yeah, like Josh said, I didn't even remember that he competed in the Arnold, so that tells you, you know, how well I think he's going to do with this placing. I think the first show he did that this year, I forgot what show it was, but he came in like severely downsized from what we're used to seeing him as. Back in like, what was it, like 2014, 2016, that kind of era. You know, he at the Olympia, he would come in just enormous. But of course, he would miss his condition. But like his arms and everything were just, you know, mind-blowingly huge. So that's why he would place decently. But I think he's just at that point where he's been competing for so long now. And I don't know, he seems like the kind of guy who requires like a lot of drugs to achieve that kind of look. I think he's probably just burnt out at this point, and I really don't see him being able to make a recovery to regain that sort of look that he used to have. So yeah, I don't see him doing very well. I don't think he's I think his better competitive years are behind him.
So you think he'll be out of the top 10, or you think he'll crack top 10?
I think he'll be out of the top 10.
Okay. And then the last one here, and we'll come off here. And has anybody heard, is Phil definitely out? Because I haven't heard hey or nay, but I'm assuming he's out. But does anybody know?
I hope he's out for his own sake.
Yeah, I've heard through a couple people that he's just not doing it.
Okay.
So yeah, I think he definitely did not deserve third last year. His waist is just I don't know what happened there, but like even when he was, you know, still winning the O, like his most dominant years were, I forget the years, but what was it, like 2013, like 2012 to 2014, somewhere in there. Like when it was between him and Kai, he looked amazing. But after that, I think 2016 was whenever he started coming with that distended waist. And, you know, his placings after there and afterwards, were very, it was very debatable whether he should have won or not. So I really hope that he doesn't pull like what Ronnie did in 2007 and choose to compete again. And he definitely does not deserve. He shouldn't be up there.
But in all fairness, is it safe to say, do we think Phil is done? I mean, not from competing, but just getting another O.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And he's probably done competing. I mean, that was his one shot to run it back while he was still young enough and still fresh enough to maybe win it back. And I think Will hit it. I had to look it up real quick. But last year, Phil got third, Brandon got second. So
okay.
On your slideshow, you had Curry getting third last year. So not such a long shot that he beats Ramy. I mean, they were right there.
Yep. So let's bring Alan into the fold here. He's one of our good friends here. So he's got Akeem in 12th. You have to suffer to get in shape. Let's see. Rolly was a major disappointment this year. Did not look like he did at all last year and the year before.
Definitely, yeah.
So he also says, if I was Rolly, I would skip the Olympia and come back next year and recuperate.
So the thing about Rolly is like he seems to do better if he has back-to-back shows. I don't know what he competed in this year. I don't even remember seeing him, so it must have been early in the year or late last year. But he seems to like win a couple shows and just stay in shape all year, and then he'll do well. But like just trying to come out of nowhere and just compete at the Olympia, I don't think he has that discipline in him.
Yeah, and I don't know. I guess Alan gave Phil a call for us. He said Phil is out.
He's got him on a speed dial.
Yes. So Alan has a whole closet full of gifted nutrition supplements, from what I understand. And then Phil has 7 Olympias, nothing to prove.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, the reason he came back last year is, he just really wanted to be up there with Ronnie and Lee Haney with tying that 8-time record. That's another reason why Ronnie chose to compete in 2007, probably against his better judgment. Just to have that chance that, you can say that you won the most Mr. Olympias of all time. I'm sure that's hard for them to accept, even when they know that they're not able to place well.
Yeah, I mean, you're in striking distance of being the literal GOAT. Why would you not at least try once? Because these guys, I mean, they're so competitive. To not even try, that's almost unacceptable.
But guys, does it hold as much bragging rights if you win 8 straight or whatever number straight versus, let's just say Phil won a 7, came back and won 1. I mean, is it still, from a bodybuilding advocate like us, is it still looked at the same that you won 8, yes, but you didn't win it consecutively versus Ronnie or Lee Haney or anything?
I mean, it's like asking Michael Jordan if it's any different, whether you got 5 rings or you got 6 rings. Most people aren't going to cut the minutia if they weren't there. So if you have 8 Olympia titles, that's what they're going to remember 10, 20, 50 years from now.
Yeah. Will and Josh, do either of you guys think we'll ever have an 8-time Olympia? It's hard to say. Olympian.
That's what I'm wondering. Especially, like, I might be biased, but I really don't see anyone bringing a better physique than Ronnie Coleman had in bodybuilding, like maybe forever. Especially in 2003, just what Ronnie brought to the stage was just nothing short of amazing. It's just mind blowing. Like, especially from the back, his incredible condition, just absolutely dominant size. And how no one was even close to touching him, even despite going against some of the most, the best athletes bodybuilding's ever seen. You had Kevin LeBron, Flex Wheeler, Sean Ray, Jay Cutler, and even those guys, they could not touch Ronnie in his prime for, I'd say, the majority of his Olympias. I think maybe 2001 was kind of questionable between him and Jay. But most guys have their questionable years, like Dorian did, and like 97. But yeah, personally, I don't see anyone ever being able to beat Ronnie unless, there's some sort of freakish, like new pharmaceutical development or something that adds like 5 inches onto your muscle with like no side effects or something insane. But yeah, he was just really, really a marvel of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
See, for me, I'll show my age, James. See, I personally think if you look at all the Olympians and who really was the best was Lee Haney. Because Lee Haney won his first one at like 23 or something and tagged out at 31. Like, just said, I'm out, I'm done. I don't know if it's because he felt Dorian nipping in his heels and said, you know what, I don't want to lose. I'm going to go on a high horse. But to me, I think Lee Haney epitomizes just the class. And I know I'm looking at 2 different physiques, but agree to disagree, guys.
Yeah, that's true. I know Lee Haney is probably the only one who actually chose to retire. Like, it's not because someone beat him. It's just that he chose to make that his last show. So there is always the question of, what if he decided to compete another 1 to 2 years, where would he have been? Personally, I don't think he would ever beaten a 1993 Dorian Yates. I think also what Dorian Yates brought to the stage in that year is kind of similar to a 2003 Ronnie Coleman. He really brought that was the first time that bodybuilding kind of saw that sort of freak factor, and that really changed the direction that bodybuilding took, and started that whole like mass monster era with what Dorian brought.
Will, was that the year he came in at like 296 or something silly? There was 1 year Ronnie competed at like 290 when he was usually competing at like 260 or something. I don't know.
Ronnie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was in the 290s or 280s. I know 2004 he actually came in heavier, but he was a little watery. He looked a little bigger, but it just wasn't as insane like as 2003. And also that's when his right like lat and tricep issue, it started to become more noticeable. But 2002, I think he competed. No, 2002 was pretty questionable for his win because he was like 240 or something. So he came in I think 40 pounds heavier for the 2003 Olympia, and it was just like a night and day difference.
Yep. Guys, before we go into the classic here in a minute, was there anybody that I overlooked that we should talk about?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, you've got James Hollinghead from the UK.
Please,
He's a big, very, very lean guy. You got Regan Grimes, who was like 8th or 9th last year. But I think he stepped on stage last year in the 230s, maybe 220s. And he's sitting about 260 right now. So he's another one of these younger guys that all of a sudden hit his stride this year. He had almost all year off. And then, I think Nathan Diash is out. He just won the UK Arnold. Looked amazing, but I don't think he's going to travel with I think he's still facing some legal issues from that case a couple years ago.
And I think Nathan's got a little age on him as well, because I seem to remember him being around the horn since the mid 2000s.
If he was not good because I don't remember him.
Yeah, and then didn't Regan start as classic or something? Because he didn't enter as a bodybuilder, I don't think, right off the bat.
I think he started in bodybuilding, and then he shifted over the classic, and then he came back to bodybuilding.
Yeah, he got swamped 1 year. I mean, just bad. Because I mean, he's got a great shape, great physique, and he looks great on Instagram. And then you plop him right next to one of these big badass dudes, and I mean, he just faded away. So I think he went the classic route and realized that he could get bigger if he wanted to get bigger, and he just turned the gas on.
So with social media, I mean, should the bodybuilders be sharing their physiques, or should they keep, I know, Will, you're very open with your when you're competing and going through your stages. I know you're very open with sharing your progress pics, but in all fairness, should the competitors show their progress pics for the fans, or just kind of leave it quiet and it's a wow factor, boom, the night of the show?
I mean, realistically, it doesn't really have any effect on their placing, but I'm sure a lot of them do it for business purposes. If they have sponsors, the sponsors probably pushing them to
good point.
continue to be active on Instagram and promote their products through that way and that sort of thing. So that's also something. But yeah, I think like Dorian was one guy who like never really posted progress pictures, or I mean, they didn't have social media like we do back then. But I mean, it would be interesting to see, that difference if we had people who just, you just see them once a year on stage and like that's it. It would really make you wonder like how much they have improved over the year and that sort of thing. But I think for me, just the way I see it, unless they're like the actual Mr. Olympia, I think, the more frequently they are posting progress pictures, they're probably more confident. Because I have seen guys who just, they don't post any progress pictures, and then come show day, like they're way off. It's probably something in the back of their head that, they're thinking that, they probably aren't as where they should be at that stage of contest prep.
It's kind of a double-edged sword, though, because you get these guys that, they post a picture in the perfect lighting with the perfect filter, and, they get 50,000 likes, and they're like, bro, you're shredded. You're going to beat so-and-so, and blah, blah, blah. And then their head gets this big, but their belly's still that big. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it reminds me of Dennis James back in like 2000, early 2000s. Every picture he would post in the gym looked, he looked like Mr. Olympia. But it's totally different ball game. With good pumped up gym pictures and actually being on stage.
So Josh, I know you post your progress pictures too, because I know you've competed a few times this year, and I'll ask Josh and then I'll defer to you, Will. For all the people that follow you guys, you get a lot of armchair quarterbacks that are either filling your head with "you look phenomenal," or the opposite of, well, dude, you should work on your biceps a little bit more, or you should, you're lacking in this. Do they hit you up with that, Josh? And then I'll defer to you too, Will, if you got armchair quarterbacks giving you feedback.
So the only feedback that I've ever really received was more on the positive end, and that's usually you look really good, this, that, and the other thing. And that kind of gaslights you to kind of keep pushing harder. At least from my perspective, and I think that's a really positive side effect from being really active on social media. If you're a competitor, is that you can find some additional drive through your supporters, your friends, your family, your fans, your followers, whatever you want to view them as. And then also, of course, when it comes to the flip side, you can find some critiquing. Since we're on a global platform, other bodybuilders, they might chime in on your videos, your pictures, slide in DMs, so on and so forth, and say, hey, look, you got to work on your posing, try doing this, try doing that, work on your biceps, this, and the other thing, so that you can just be a better package overall. And I think it's really just a beneficial thing in general. So yeah, that's my take.
Well, you, Will, does anybody give you good, bad, or different critiques?
I mean, most of the critiques I would get is all just positive, which, that's cool and all, and it'll help keep you motivated, but it can also be a crutch, which, I've seen with a lot of people who compete, it might be their first show or whatever. I guess it also depends on, why you're competing, but if you're competing to win, and if you're not in shape for being 6 weeks out or something like that, like as a friend, if you're familiar with the space, you should really tell someone that, like, hey, maybe you should pick a later show. You're not looking as good as you should. But like with like Instagram, we're so used to seeing all this positivity and that sort of shit. It's just like, it's positivity is good if it's truthful. But like if you're just saying that to make them feel good, that's a different story. That's only going to end up hurting them, because they're going to come contest day, and they're going to step on stage thinking that they should win. And, in reality, they're going to look 4 weeks out next to everyone else. So it really depends. And, it also, I mean, there's a way to critique, give honest critiques and honest feedback of things that you can improve on. And, I always really consider the source of someone who's commenting. Like, you can usually tell if someone's just talking shit. If there's someone who's like not familiar with bodybuilding at all, who's never competed in that sort of thing, like, I'm probably not going to take advice from them. But if it's someone who's a pro, or someone who's competed multiple times, or like a top level coach, and they say something that, like, saying, look, you don't look very good or whatever. That's something that I would really put into consideration, because they probably know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So I competed before the whole Instagram and social media, and I preferred it. Like, I wanted God's honest truth. I'm like, don't fluff me here. Tell me if something's looking light, something's looking weak. I need to course correct now, like you're saying, and not like get a big head and step on stage thinking I'm the greatest. But we can go around with that forever.
Yeah, exactly. Which now look on Instagram, most people are just like super overly positive, and I don't necessarily think that's the best way. If your goal is to be as good as you can competitively.
Yep. So Alan, once again, Dennis James was Mr. O in the gym every time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So let's go back to the slideshow here, guys. I didn't put all the classic guys, but we'll share here, and we'll have to add some as we go along here, because I put kind of top 5 here.
I mean, really, that's it. Once you get outside of that, I mean, it's not super interesting. But I think the top 5 is going to be very, very talked about this year.
Okay, so let's go to our first person here. We got Terrence Ruffin, second place 2020. So I'm going to be a little behind here with
diesel.
classic. Go ahead, Will. What were you saying? Oh, Will, we lost you. We lost your audio.
Me?
So, Sean, before we start this, I'm actually going to cut out. I'm going to go eat and do some business-related things. So I will see you guys later.
See you, Josh.
Josh, thanks for joining in, buddy.
See you there, man.
All right, bye.
Will, go ahead. Wait, we lost your audio for a minute. I don't know if you're back or not.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm not an expert when it comes to classic. I think Chris Bumstead is really going to be a dominant force in classic for the years to come. But I think Terrence, is right there behind him. But just because Chris is so much taller and he has a lot of mass, especially with the improvements that he made to his back last year, and he's probably even improved it more this year, it's going to be interesting to see what he brings. Terrence is a phenomenal poser. Watching his Arnold Classic routine 2 weeks ago, it was very, very cool to see. So it's cool to see that aspect of bodybuilding kind of thriving in classic physique. But whenever it comes to the actual judging, I'm not really sure what the judges are looking for. And, kind of with like all the different women's classes also, it's like, I'm not sure if the judges know what they're looking for either. And I've heard a few guys say that really like the best classic physique is basically just going to be the best bodybuilder who's capable of making that weight class. So especially with Chris, I think Chris is kind of pushing the limits with how big you can be if they're kind of going to go that same route with like chasing size, in a couple of years. And if classic is just going to evolve into another 202/212 division where it's just like the big massive guys with or the big shorter guys who are very muscular who end up winning or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I think that'll be.
Go ahead, James.
I said I think that'd be hard to do with the weight cutoffs because they're by size and classic. So like you take Terrence. I think Terrence is 5'6", 5'7", something like that. I think his cutoff is maybe 210, 220, something like that. And then you get Bumstead, who's 6'1", his cutoff is 240. So yeah, I mean, he gets another 40 or another 20 pounds on there or so, but he also has a much bigger frame to fill out.
Yep. So actually, since you brought up Bumstead, so I don't know if you want to give predictions or not, because James, I think you're the most tuned in here with the classic. I like classic. When I see these guys, it's so funny because I go back to like watching Pumping Iron, and these guys are almost the same size as the competitors of Pumping Iron.
I mean, I would venture to say that they're probably a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I would agree.
Pound for pound, but it's chasing that same look, but pushing it a little bit. I would first say at like the regional, national level is like you get a lot of guys that could go either way between like, let's say, a light heavy bodybuilder and classic physique. Whereas, you go back 3 years ago when classic first came out, it was more the men's physique guys trying to transition. It's more bodybuilders transitioning down that just have a better aesthetic, so
Yeah.
you get your kind of like freaky guys that just want to be a super heavy, and then those guys can't compete, but they realize, if I get a small waist and big shoulders, they do well in classic. So I think Will's right. Bumstead is hands down ahead of the competition. He's one of the guys that, if he can stay under the weight limit, he's got 4 or 5 classic O's under his belt with the current landscape.
Yeah, and I wonder if they will eventually change the weight classes like they did at not the lightweight, but they had the 212. But when the 212 started back in the 2000s, it was 202.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they
I
realized
remember
that people were getting too big, they couldn't compact any more muscle, so they added 10 more pounds.
that. Yeah.
So, but here's another one that I'm new to, Alejandro Cambron. I can't even see what I wrote here.
Yeah, we'll go back to Ruffin real quick.
Okay.
He is another proportionately genetic freak. With as small as he is, his that waist, and you can see right there, he's got big legs, great poses. I mean, he's number 2. I mean, I think if those two stay where they're at, and just continue to get better, they'll be 1 and 2, and maybe there'll be a year that Chris is off a little bit. He just can't get under his weight and ends up a little flat, like what happened to Flex.
Yep.
Was it 3-4 years ago? I mean, he barely won, but you could see like he had to pull so much weight down, he couldn't fill back out. And so if Chris does something like that, Terrence could maybe take him.
See, like for me, this is the physique that I would like in my age just to try to achieve. Not the mass monster, but this is just, it's almost like that beefed up beach body. I mean, to a point. But,
Yeah, I think the look of classic is a lot more appealing to, people who aren't just like obsessed with bodybuilding. So I think classic has more potential to bring in, the mainstream and, potential beyond the ESPN and things like that in the future, possibly. And these guys probably do better with like sponsorship contracts and that sort of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if I think most of these guys probably make more money than some of the top bodybuilders.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly, Will. I definitely think so. Do you know anything about Alejandro, James?
Yeah, I mean he's a little small, but he's been coming in good condition wise. But I don't think he makes top 5 this year.
Because he came in 4th last year, and then Breon I like. I mean, I don't know him well enough, but I hear like a lot of good things. I like his physique. I agree. I think Bumstead is going to have some longevity, but I think Breon might have some longevity as well.
Yeah, I think Breon will be 3rd. I think it's basically Bumstead 1st. My mind is drawing a blank.
Terrence Ruffin.
Ruffin 2nd, and then Breon 3rd, and then like everyone else below that. I really don't see that changing. I would be very surprised if someone came in and gave any of those guys a run for their money.
Yep.
Yeah,
James, you agree yourself? You think it's a top 3 again this year?
I want to say yes, but I think Robert Timms has a chance of maybe pulling 3rd.
Okay.
That's the guy I sent you his Instagram handle. It's at Mr. Classic Physique or something like that. But he's a real tall guy, and he won. It's like the Dallas show or something like that. And he's just insanely shredded. Legs are a little small, and I think that's where Breon may have him. It's just he's got the overall flow. But Breon's been struggling, waist wise. I mean, he keeps trying to get bigger and fill out the weight class, but he doesn't have that really classic taper. So he has to work really hard to stay tight in the middle.
Yep. Will, with all respect, and obviously you're an aspiring bodybuilder, do you think classic will ever become a true competitor to bodybuilding, or do you think bodybuilding will always have that upper edge? The classic will always be secondary.
That's a tough question. I honestly don't know, but I know there is, people who come to see bodybuilding just because they like that freak factor, and
Yeah.
bodybuilding is kind of unique in that way, and it's really seeing, everything that the human body is capable of. There's just no limitations on it, and it's just all out. What can the human body achieve versus something like physique, and then I don't know how much the classic physique winners make, like money wise.
Oh, it's
I
like
think
a 10.
it's barely anything, right? Like the Mr. Olympia in bodybuilding makes like 500K now. I think they usually increase it on 100K per year, and then classic probably wins like 10, 20,000 or something. It's just, if you compare it money wise, it's laughable, the difference. But that doesn't necessarily correlate to like mainstream interest and that sort of thing. So classic physique definitely has more potential with like the mainstream interest in regards with where it can go, and them being just more marketable physiques compared to bodybuilding.
So to Will, to answer your question, I just pulled it up. So Ramy won 400,000 last year.
Okay.
Bumstead won 30,000. And then
Yeah,
for
that's crazy.
212, Clarita won 50,000. So you talk about a big discrepancy.
Nick Walker won like 125K at the Arnold. And then I think, like you said, they make like 20, 30 grand, at a big classic show. So there's a huge discrepancy there. But I think over time, it'll change a little bit. But what I've noticed is the shows, they're structuring them different. Is used to like national and regional shows, they would hold bodybuilding open classes to the very end to keep people in the seats.
Yeah.
And now it's, men's physique and bikini goes last because everybody that came to support somebody else, and the ranks of bodybuilding, just competitors total, has come down quite a bit. So
I've heard that where nationals would be, bodybuilding now and nationals is like 50 people, and I've heard hundreds for the classic and the physiques and everything.
Oh yeah, I mean, like this last show that I was at, they had like 40 something people in classic, and in men's physique, and they had like 20, maybe 15 in bodybuilding total.
Yep.
Yeah, that's something I definitely noticed from competing, especially at the regional level. You compete in bodybuilding at the regional level, you're lucky to have one other person in your weight class. It's just like ridiculous how, like, I guess, dead bodybuilding really is at that low level. But whenever you do get to the national level, it's such a big difference in talent between the regional bodybuilders and national level bodybuilders. There's a lot of great national level bodybuilders out there, but I think the vast majority of people go for something like classic physique or physique because it's more attainable, or at least it seems more attainable. It's kind of you don't have to push yourself. It's not as extreme as something like bodybuilding. And I also back in like whenever I started following bodybuilding in 2006, there were only, I think, the USA's, North Americans, and nationals, or was it North Americans and USA's? I think you had to be the overall winner just to receive your pro card, and then nationals, was a big deal because the winner of each weight class would win a pro card. But as far as any other chance of winning a pro card for bodybuilding, that was it. Now you have classic physique and physique. These guys have so many more opportunities to win pro cards. They hand out pro cards substantially more compared to bodybuilding. So you have, if you're doing that kind of division, you have a much better chance of getting a pro card. Is that a good thing? I don't know. But whenever you have like whenever guys back in the day would turn pro as a bodybuilder, like that's a huge deal, just because of how competitive it was.
And that's how things have changed. Because again, in the '90s, competitors like the top level guys, aside from Mr. O, would compete 3, 4, 5 times a year. Like you would see Kevin Levrone compete 4 times, Flex Wheeler 5 times, and then still do the Arnold, still do the O. And I wonder to a point if that's why they've given out so many pro cards, because now the top 5 O placers are only doing the O. So they need somebody else to kind of start stacking those other shows, the New York Pros and the Canada Pros and all that stuff. So I don't know if there's any water to what I'm saying with that, but
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, now, especially with how difficult it is for most of the guys to come in good condition multiple times a year, they really want to make the Olympia their focus as soon as they get qualified for it. Because that's where all the attention is. That's where the prize money, the notoriety is. That most of the other shows, a lot of people don't really care about them as much, other than like the Arnold Classic and the New York Pro. Those are kind of the other, semi big level shows.
yep. Love Alan here. I see people now who have a pro card and ask how the fuck that happened. Entry in a show.
Well,
I think he's got a point. You see so many people on Instagram saying like, IFBB Pro this, IFBB Pro. It's interesting to see. It doesn't necessarily mean they're like a pro bodybuilder. Like I don't know. To me, it's weird calling like a physique competitor an IFBB Pro. Like I feel like there should be a distinction between that and like a bodybuilder pro.
What were you saying, James?
Said a lot of times, the men's physique guys, first and second at a lot of these national shows, get their pro card. And then you look at, okay, well, so you've got the different classes. You've got your Masters 35, your Masters 40, your Masters 45, your Masters 50. And then, so, I mean, that's 10 pro cards they're handing out. Bam, that's 10 new pros. They do that 3-4 times a year. And then, I've seen it happen. There was one time this year where there was nobody else in the class, in some of these like fitness or something like that. And so you got somebody that has a subpar physique, shows up showing subpar effort and undisputed, bam, pro card. And, I kind of feel like there should at least be some, hey, if you're not in shape, you can't have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you should at least have to compete against someone to win your pro card.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The one time that I competed, there was nobody else in my class. I'm 6'3", Class D. They put me with the Class B guys because they said, listen, I didn't do all this to not stand next to somebody, to not duke it out. And, I was a foot taller than everybody there.
Even with my show, it was a smaller show, but I was a middleweight. So middleweight for bodybuilding is usually has the most people in the class. I think it was just 2 of us in that class, and there was another guy. I think he was a light heavy. So they just brought him in, to our class for the comparisons, because what's he going to do? Just stand out there by himself? It's for comparisons. It makes no sense.
And that's a 22-pound, like from what I think middleweight was 176 back in the day. Maybe it still is, and light heavy is 198.
Yeah, still is. Yeah.
So that could be like a 25-pound discrepancy or a 22-pound discrepancy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. The guy's way out of shape. He should have made him middleweight, but that's regional bodybuilding.
Oh, yeah, you see a lot of interesting stuff at some of these shows sometimes.
Yeah.
But, the interesting thing that I think a lot of people don't know is that, like, because there are so many physique pros, those guys can transition into classic and enter a pro show like that,
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I didn't know that was a thing until recently. There was a guy who trains at Dragon's Lair. I think he turned pro as a classic physique, and now he does bodybuilding. And like you can compete as a pro. So like you can win your men's physique pro card and then go and enter a pro bodybuilding show. I think you can just do that. That's really weird.
So like I had a buddy of mine a couple years ago. I mean, he's getting ready to do nationals in Miami, and gets one of the head judges to look at him and goes, hey, I'll tell you right now, you go pro in men's physique. You get your pro card. If you step on stage in classic physique in Miami, you probably won't get first call-outs. But if you want to go pro as a men's physique guy, and then you can transition. There's no rules after that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I feel like they should. I feel like they shouldn't be able to allow that. That's
some
ridiculous.
kind of, hey, you can't, hit the weight limit anymore in classic, or, men's physique. You actually start training legs or something.
It's just basically pay the admission fee, because I've seen people on Instagram that like walking out of a show with like 3 to 4 trophies, and it's like, I won the 50 Open, I won the Classic Open, and I won just the Open Bodybuilding Open, and it was like, yeah, basically just pay 40 or whatever the fee is.
It's $100.
Like, okay, yeah, whatever it is.
It's $100 trophy. You enter in, some of these shows, and they stopped doing it down here as much, but Will, I don't know if they do it over there, but you got like your armed forces trophy and your, first responder class and your, transformation, your veteran class. And next thing you know, you sat through like 20 different classes, and, this person takes 5 trophies home. One class was with, 10 people, and all the other classes were like 3 people or undisputed. And then you see them on Instagram. They're like, yeah, we swept the show. And you're like,
yeah, and they're the only competitor in the damn show.
And I'm like, I know you're excited, but let's all, settle the participation trophies. Yeah. I mean, like, I brought 0 trophies home from the first show that I did, even though I was the only person in my class. Like, a trophy for like standing by yourself is worthless in my opinion.
Well, plus with the NPC, it probably costs them about 25 cents to make the trophies, so it's not really something that's like a big deal if you don't hold on to it in the first place.
So, guys, as we wind down here, James, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Well, let's talk supplements a little bit. When are you dropping the greens formula, brother? What's the latest? Do I want to pull that Band-Aid?
Actually, perfect time. I just got the invoice for the last 50%. It's complete. I'm 2 weeks ahead of time, so probably see the formula release on Stack 3D in the next week or so. And
so when do you take shipment though to ship? When do you take shipment to ship out?
Oh, well, I'll get it, and then I'll send a unit off to get tested, and we'll all wait with bated breath to hope that the gods align and everybody did their job properly, and then we can sell it.
Now, how do you test a greens formula to show that there's 10% spinach in there or 5% beet? I mean, how the hell do they do that?
When you see the formula, you will see that it doesn't fucking matter how many greens are in there. There's so much other stuff that I'm not going to test the greens, just to be honest. There's 14 other ingredients in there that are active. And so 8 grams of greens, you can do the math. There's some kind of greens in there.
Okay.
Spending hundreds of dollars to figure out if it's alfalfa or spinach or whatever. If they can get everything else right, we're just going to give them this little bit of trust there.
Vitamin C is vitamin C. And what about protein? Is protein officially on like back order? Because I'm hearing horror stories from people, and I know when you and I spoke, you looked at like $10 extra a jug or something. Your cost or something.
It's been a freaking nightmare. I've spent all year trying to get the greens and the protein to launch. I've been through 3 different manufacturers trying to run away from the price increases, but I mean, I've seen up to $15 a unit, so you're talking $5 to $7 per pound. My cost. So, I mean, I'm not going to produce anything that I'm going to have $30 into a jug of protein. Especially not if people are still out there doing BOGOs and stuff. So until everything kind of levels out, I hate to say it, but we're focused on the greens. That's kind of the hero product right now. And we're just going to focus on doing what we do.
I thought it was funny. Singerman came out recently and said that, unfortunately, folks, I have to raise prices. So that means it's not buy one, get 7 free. It's buy one, get 5 free.
The worst part is I don't even know if you're joking or not.
No, but he did come out making an announcement that he's going to have to raise prices because of the whole supply chain. But that's my joke is so instead of 7 free a set of Nikes, Yeezys, and a sweatshirt, you're only going to get a sweatshirt and 5 more freebies. Sorry.
Oh gosh.
Will
Listen, anybody who looks at somebody's pricing and knowing that there's going to be a sale next time you go to the website or whatever, and actually considers the value of that product based off that list price, I mean, that's not a good consumer, in my opinion.
Yeah. Will, and I know for people you were on recently, but people that have not seen our show yet, is there anything new coming out? Anything you want to release or let people know to watch out for in your line?
That joint formula.
What's that?
The joint formula, right?
Yeah, we actually just got in the first shipment of the joint support today, so that will be available, and then we have pre-orders for that, so we'll start shipping those out. And then next on the list is going to be kind of like a omega-3 formula with a little bit of something different in there. I don't really want to talk about for now. It's still a while away. It's still in the process of R&D. So that's probably still going to be another 4 to 6 months on that.
But the joint formula is coming now? Or the joint formula you have in stock, or is it coming soon?
Yeah, we have in stock now, as of today.
Okay. And James, what were you saying?
Will, on those caps, those soft caps like that, are you seeing the 16-week lead times or whatever?
Yeah, I think they have me on a 16 to 20 week lead time for this soft gel manufacturer, and it was like the only one I could find that was able to do I think 300,000 soft gels was their minimum, so we're doing like 390,000 or something like that. It's like 2,600 units.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah. So hopefully it goes well, and then from there we can kind of expand our MOQ over time, and then hopefully get better pricing on that.
So for people that are listening to this, on the audio version, if you're customers of Impel and Leviathan Nutrition, if you see out of stock before you take your business somewhere else, send them a quick DM, because there might be new inventory around the horn. Don't just automatically say, "Oh, James is out of whatever," and start shopping somewhere else. Because if you trust the brand, reach out to them. There might be stock inventory coming really soon.
Right. Yeah. And another thing is like whenever they ask that, like all I can do is kind of give a general idea of when I think it's going to be in stock. I mean, manufacturers can always have delays. There can be delays with the freight of it getting to you and that sort of thing. So, these are all things that happen pretty constantly. So, like, if I say we'll probably have something in 2 weeks, like come 2 weeks and it's not in, don't blame me for saying that. Like, oh, you said it 2 weeks. It's like I don't have, I'm not able. Some of those sort of things are just not in our control.
Yeah, I mean, Will nailed it. I mean, 16 plus weeks is what a lot of the stuff I see is. And so then you put your deposit down, you wait 14 and a half weeks, and you're like, so how's it looking? They're like, I don't know, be another 3 or 4 weeks.
And it's not getting any better, is it? It's not getting any better.
Yeah, it's getting worse.
Weeks on bottles or lids is what I'm being quoted. And I mean, then it just compounds. Prices of everything are skyrocketing. Citrulline is up, 50, 60%. They're estimating it to be 100% year over year by January. Creatine is, 300-400% up. And it's just, it's compounding, and it's just getting worse the more supply chain issues we have.
James, have you been able to find bottles and stuff, or will people have to notice that maybe you got an off-color top, or your bottles still kind of maintain the same?
So far, everything we've done is pretty much the same.
Okay.
But that's not to say that things may not change. Because weird enough, black bottles, black tops, you would think that's like the hottest thing. But they're just not cranking them out as much as the white ones, it seems like.
Yeah. And Will, most of your products are black bottle, right?
Yeah. Actually, that's one issue we're having for the fish oil product. I think we're only going to be able to get an amber colored bottle and then like a black lid, just because the soft gel manufacturer, they only offer white bottles, so like I have to get my own bottles for that. And as far as like a 400cc bottle in the United States, I haven't found any suppliers that have that in stock. And then it also depends on like the lid and the type of seal that is used for that. Currently, I found one that the soft gel manufacturer is able to use for those lids, but if they run out of stock, that's going to be a bad situation. So hopefully we can get this order, at least the first down payment done soon, and then I can start ordering those things. Because if they run out of like amber colored bottles, my only choice is either clear or white, and that's just going to look horrible.
But with a soft gel, do you want clear to keep? I mean, don't you want something dark to? I mean, I don't know if light affects it at all.
Yeah, I think light does affect it somewhat, so that'd be another thing that dark is going to be preferred. I'd rather have black so it can be consistent with my other bottles, but amber is currently all that they have as far as that dark color goes. So that's what we're going to go with. I mean, it still looks better than white.
Yeah, because I will wrap up here, but there's a Facebook group I'm part of, and one of the guys, his brand, he orders everything internationally, and when he places his order, it's like a $10,000 order for X amount. That $10,000 order is now at $33,000. He was saying, which is ridiculous. Wow. Like for bottles and storage units.
Well, so just the shipping alone, typically, let's say if you're getting a container of whatever, you're $6,000 to $9,000 for a 40-foot container shipping overseas. Now we're seeing some of the stuff run up 25, 30 grand. Just for the freight. Now, what is also happening is, let's say that you can secure a decent price on a container. That doesn't mean that you're actually going to get a spot on a vessel when it comes by. So, in some of the other things that I do logistically, different industries, we're seeing containers get skipped 2 or 3 times. And a friend of mine was leaving the States to go back to France, and he had his car in a container, all his household goods, and it took 3 vessels to come into port and leave for them to actually get it on the right one.
Jesus Christ.
So, I mean, he almost didn't leave the country because he couldn't get his stuff picked up.
Jeez.
It's insane.
So, and now there's 70 plus container ships not being able to be offloaded just around the United States.
I've seen this like a bottleneck, I think in California and maybe New York or something. I've seen them that I'm at like Walmart and Target are hiring their own independent like vessels to take it on their own.
Yeah, I mean, there's not enough longshoremen, stevedores. They're saying that it's a trucking issue as well. Because I think in LA there's a big storage crisis. So I expect it to get way worse before it gets any better. I mean, I think that's across all industries at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I really do appreciate the time this afternoon. This will be circulating on YouTube probably in the morning, and I'll go ahead and convert this to audio. But for James, people that are listening on the podcast, where can people find you? Social media, Instagram, website, please.
At Impel Nutrition on Instagram, impelnutrition.com, and you can find me by name on Facebook.
And Will, for yourself and your brand?
So Leviathan Nutrition. The website is just leviathan-nutrition.com. On Instagram, it's just Leviathan Nutrition, all one word. And then my personal Instagram is W Whitlock Fitness.
Perfect. And for people that are interested in learning more about Impel as well as Will, I have independent podcast in the archives. And then for Josh as well, who was with us earlier, there's a podcast with him. But gents, again, I always appreciate the time and appreciate the friendship.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having us on. This was fun. We'll see if how accurate our predictions are come Saturday.
Yeah, I'll text you guys real time.
Sounds good. Do you guys know where they're webcasting it?
Yeah, it is. I think it's like $30 or something like that, but there should be a live stream.
Oh, you have to pay for it?
I think so, yeah.
It better be good then. I hope it's not none of this like freezing business that usually the Olympia has.
We'll see.
Well,
Yeah,
gents, have a
it'll
good
be
night.
good
If you want to stay on for just a minute.
All right. Thanks.